I'd like to welcome everybody back to the Emperor Atheist channel with your host, the one and only, the Emperor Atheist, who doesn't like your religion at all. Why? Because it's probably 99.9% bullshit. Today, I'm going to speak on the Black Hebrew Israelites. Those of you who may be familiar with the Black Hebrew Israelites, you might not be. But these are basically African Americans, or Africans, whatever they want to call themselves, who are claiming to be the Jews of the Hebrew Bible. They claim to be the chosen people of this Yahweh. And they say that the white Jews, the Jews that we are more familiar with in this day and time, they say that the white Jews are actually the fake Jews, and they say that these white people are really the Edomites of the Bible. Edomites, for those who are familiar with the Bible, Old Testament, is the twin brother of so-called Jacob. I don't know if they're real historical figures, but just going on the story of the Bible, twin brother of so-called Jacob. And they say because, according to how the description of his birth was, red, hairy, they say that Jacob, or Yaqub in Hebrew, was the original black people through Isaac, and that Edom was the white people. So the white race came from Edom, or Esau, which is bullshit. Of course, we have no evidence of that. We have no haplo, DNA marker evidence, no type of evidence. It's just a Bible story. And these particular black Hebrews are just claiming somebody else's stuff. And everybody already know how I feel about the Bible. It's garbage, and it's bullshit. But you have these particular blacks, and there's a lot of different splinter groups of these so-called Hebrews. They debate. They be on the corners of the street, basically in New York, 125th, different spots in New York. That's like the strongest concentration of these particular black Hebrews in their splinter groups. You got some in D.C., some down here in Atlanta. You got a few out west, But the biggest concentration that you can find these so-called black Hebrews or black Jews, basically in New York. And I've spoken to some on the streets in New York. I've spoken to some down here in Atlanta. I've spoken through some through the phone, and I've talked to them for years. And I myself used to have ideology like that, so I could speak to these brothers on their level, on their wavelength. But it seems as of a few, last maybe 4 or 5 years, they've really gotten out of hand with this bullshit teaching. And I think it's a poison teaching. The Bible, period. You can mind your own business religiously, but these particular brothers, they just on the corner and they persuading people the white man is the devil and all this shit, and that the blacks are the original Hebrews, and they've been debunked all the time. They get debunked all the time, but they all and you always know them because they dress like Power Rangers. They look just like some damn Power Rangers. If y'all familiar with the Power Rangers, they got all these colorful suits and shit. I guess they call themselves dressing like the Leviticus priesthood or like the so-called Hebrews of the Bible did. But they look like fucking Power Rangers, and they always do all this goddamn hollering when they read Bible verses, all that type bullshit. I know maybe they feel like that's the way they got to get their point across, quoting bullshit verses real loud. But that doesn't make it true because you're quoting it loud, Hebrew brothers. It doesn't. But I said I'm gonna make this video, and this is probably gonna be a series about the Black Hebrew Israelites because I have to be fair. In my smashing of bullshit religions and in my speaking of bullshit religions, I can't just talk about Christians and Muslims and the Mormons and not talk about everybody else. I got to talk about the Black Hebrew Israelites too, even though that's you can put that on the same wavelength of the Bible is bullshit because they believe in the Bible. They believe in the KJV, as a matter of fact. They are strong adherents of the King James Version Bible. So for the most part, they fall right in line with Christians. And some of them, they believe Jesus Christ is the Messiah and all that. Which some of you already know that certain Orthodox Jews don't even accept the New Testament. But most of these Black Hebrew cults, because that's what they are, it's a cult, they accept the New Testament and Jesus Christ. You have, like I said, you have a lot of different splinter groups. But I think the biggest would probably be the Nation of Yahweh, which, for those who are not familiar, was headed and created by Ben Yahweh. Okay, and He's passed away now. He did a lot of Fed time. You know, they say he did a lot of crazy stuff down in Miami. And I won't get off into all that. That's irrelevant. But they say he was down in Miami. I think it was the Love Temple, the Temple of Love. That was the name of it. And he wound up doing Fed time. But anyway, he still has a big number of followers. You know, and then you have the Israeli Church of God in Christ. Which is headed by this guy named Tazakata, which claims to be the damn comforter from the New Testament. All this bullshit. They call him this high priest. Just go look on YouTube. You see some of the bullshit he's spitting. And you can see him like in the pulpit, literally with the Power Rangers outfits and shit. And he's speaking as far as the same shit that Yahweh ben Yahweh spoke on. The same thing that all these other people, even Malachi York. Malachi York, those who are not familiar with the pedophile Malachi York, the YB Nation, he used to teach. He transitioned from different stuff. He used to teach. He used Nuwapians, and then he used to be Islamic Nubian Hebrews and all this shit. And he taught that everybody was black. He taught that the original Arabs were black, the original Jews were black. But you had all these different splinter groups that came on up until the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and a lot of them spawned from the Nation of Islam under the leadership of Elijah Muhammad. But I'll get off into that history later too. But like Yahweh ben Yahweh, stuff like that. But then you have the Israeli School of Universal Practical Knowledge, and a lot of you'll see these by initials. ISUPK, Israeli School of Practical Universal Knowledge. Then you have the Israeli United in Christ, the IUIC. Then you have, which all of them, they go against each other. They don't really agree. The only thing they agree with is that the Hebrews of the Bible are black. Then you have the Gathering of Christ Church, the GOCC, which is some bullshit too. All on bullshit. I'm gonna get to it. Then you have the Great Millstone Hebrews, or they go by the GMS. All of these particular groups are basically concentrated within New York. So you go to New York anytime, especially to Harlem, you can hear these guys from blocks away hollering and screaming. Some of them got big microphones, reading verses of the Bible and shit. But the thing about it is that they use the Bible. They use the King James Bible. And some of them speak Hebrew, Some of them, a lot of them are on Facebook groups with me. And some of them, maybe a very small percentage, are actually so-called learned in the biblical Hebrew. Or ancient Hebrew, hardly not. You won't find too many of them actually knows the actual Aramaic, ancient Hebrew, or how it was taught or spoken in earlier times. But this is the key thing about them. They claim that Abraham and all these people were black, and they claim that the Africans sold them into slavery, and they teach on. I'm just giving you an order of how they teach. They teach that Vespasian, which was in 70 CE, and his son Titus, when they overthrow Jerusalem in 70 CE. Some people say AD. They teach that these particular black Hebrews who were in Jerusalem at the time, they teach that these particular Hebrews were ran out through the diaspora of Africa and got mixed in with the African tribes. Okay. First of all, we have no historical evidence of that. Not one. I've asked people to bring evidence. I've challenged Hebrews time and time again to speak on, show the evidence, show the historical evidence of Vespasian and Titus Vespasian actually running blacks out of Jerusalem, and they can't do it. But this is their belief. This is their belief system, and once I get into the particular biblical scriptures, and I ask them if these particular black people, if the so-called black Hebrew Israelites are the original people of God, then why is the position of the black man and black woman so low, not only in America, but so low in the world? And why are you claiming that these particular white Jews that over in Israel, you claiming they are the false Jews, but yet they're getting all of the good spoils of war? They have their own army. They have their own universities in Jerusalem. The black Hebrews of Ben Ami Israel, who was African Hebrew Israelites out of Chicago back in the 60s, went over there and had to get permission from the people y'all call Edomites. They had to get, and they just now getting their real citizenship just in 2003. So how can you tell me that these black Hebrews are the original people of God? First of all, we can't find not one Hebraic speaking tribe in Africa. Yes, you have Africa. You have the Falashas. You had the Lebo. You had different tribes who claim to be Jews, who have claimed to be Jews. Can't prove it through any haplogroups. Can't prove through any DNA testing. And these people basically were proselytized. In other words, they became Jews. They can't show a history of Judaism or whatever you want to call it, Hebrewism, that goes all the way back. Africa, you can't find a Hebrew script or a Greek script nowhere in the continent of Africa. So you got to ask yourself, and I'm talking to you, black Hebrews, where is the foundation? How did you preserve the Hebrew of the Bible? I'm asking this question one more again. How did you preserve the Hebrew of the Bible? Because we have the King James Bible. We have the academic Hebrew language, which was actually dictated and started in 1958. Okay? And this is the Hebrew language that has been taken upon by the people that you call Edomites. So I have to ask you, and I always ask these brothers in their face, what Hebrew rules do you go by? Do you go by the rules of the academic Hebrew language rules, which is in Israel? Which is in Israel. What system did you preserve? Can you show us any particular system that you preserve, like the Nikud, or the diacritical marks, the adding of the vowels? Who did that? Show me where the Maseratis of Tiberias were black, were African. You can't show that. Who was Eleazar ben Yahuda? Who was he? This is what the academic language of Hebrew, they took the place of Eleazar ben Yahuda, which was the Hebrew language, which was the Hebrew grammar language at that particular time. The point that I'm making is the same people that y'all call devils, the same people that y'all call Edomites, the ones who are in Israel, the ones who you meet everywhere, these white Jews, whether they're conservative, Hasidic, or whatever they call, these are the people that has preserved the language. So I got to ask, and I know a lot of you are going to say, because you always say this bullshit, oh, they speak Yiddish. Say that bullshit. Because there's a major difference between Yiddish, there's a major difference between Hebrew that is spoken today and that is written today, what you call modern Hebrew. There's a big difference between modern Hebrew that is spoken and that is controlled and that is understood by the Hebrew academic language in Israel. There's a big difference from that and what we know to be Yiddish. So y'all can save that bullshit. And you can also save your Khazar theory, because that is more bullshit added on top of more bullshit. Or the Khazars or these people, the Sephardim, these people were the fake Jews and they took the place of Africa. Yeah. Listen. You have to show DNA evidence. These particular people that you call the devil, the Edomites, whatever you want to call them, these people have DNA evidence that ties them back to certain tribes, Levite. Go look it up. Everybody has a particular haplogroup. These particular haplogroups show you how different tribes of people travel from all over the world. Whether you're from Germany, whether you're from Turkey, whether you're from West Africa, North Africa, East Africa. Haplogroups show how particular tribes traveled, where they was at particular times in history. Now, if you say that Vespasian of Rome and his son Titus drove black Jews or Hebrews out of Jerusalem in CE, Common Era, in the year 70 CE, then we should be able to see evidence of haplogroups from Jerusalem going into the African diaspora. But no one has demonstrated that yet. Now, why is that? Why is that? Because you are claiming a white man's religion. The Jews are European. You're claiming their religion. These people fight and die for their religion. You're not, most of you black Hebrews, you're in the streets of New York or DC talking this bullshit on the corner of the streets. Why you ain't over in Israel with the other black Hebrew Israelites who just got permission to get their citizenship in 2003? Why you not over there fighting for your country, the country that you say, or the land that you say this false Yahweh gave you? Why are you still over here in New York and all these streets talking this dumb shit, feeding our people this ridiculous ass religion? If you believe that some God in heaven, Yahweh, Elohim, whatever the hell you want to call this God, if you believe that he is for you, then why are you not going over there to claim your religion from these so-called people that you call Edomites? I think it's a fair question, because you know they would blow your ass up. And you also know that no Yahweh or angels will come out the sky to save you from the massacre. So, I mean, come on. Ain't no God coming out the sky and going to hand Israel over to y'all. Y'all just going to stay over the rest of y'all life and just be a bunch of blacks in fucking colorful ass, cartoonish outfits talking this biblical shit. Go and prove that you are the original Hebrews. Go take Israel. Go fight for Israel. That's your land, right? The land of Canaan, you know, land of milk and honey and all this bullshit. Why don't you go fight for it? Now, as far as evidence from the Bible, I'm going to go through this in my second video. You know, people are always talking about Revelations. It's showing and proving the ethnicity of this so-called Jesus Christ. False flag. Or Daniel, the book of Daniel, always shows the ethnicity. You know, they speak about the burnt brass and the hair of wool, and they automatically take these verses to mean that this is the description of this Jesus the Christ and he is black. That's a false flag. And I'm just going to say this for the record. Even if Jesus Christ was black, or the Jews were actually black, we're just going to, just for the sake of argument, we're going to say the Jews were actually black. All 12 tribes. Just for the sake of argument. They steal some bullshit because they made this shit up. This shit is fake. So it don't make no difference whether you put a black face on Santa Claus or a white face or Chinese face or Arabic face. It's a whole phony. So, you know, you got to get out of that shit. Oh, everything is black, because everything was not goddamn black. We're not the only people on this goddamn planet, man. Okay, now, like I said, in my second video, I'm going to go to the scriptures. And, you know, they also say that, you know, they got all these false prophecies that they use from the Bible. And like I say, probably 80% of them actually don't know the Hebrew. And when I speak to them face to face, and I actually debate them face to face, they always get caught up. They be like, oh, damn, this atheist actually knows Hebrew and studies Hebrew. Oh, yeah, I do. And they always get caught up, and they always smashed it, and they eventually run from the debate because they actually don't know Hebrew. They don't know the history of Hebrew, and they don't know, they can never explain how the so-called black Hebrew actually preserved the Hebrew. And they also can't explain that why are you dependent on a King James Version Bible that was not written or translated by any Africans, period, by any so-called black Hebrews, but this is the one you depend on. Why you don't have a version from some famous black Hebrew 300, 400, 500 years ago? You telling me your Yahweh just left y'all hanging like that? That he even let his word just go into the hands of your enemy, the so-called Edomites, the white man who you call the devil? Because these are the only versions of the Bibles we have. We don't have no black, not one black translator we can say translated the Bible. King James wasn't black. He wasn't a Hebrew. So come on. I know y'all see this bullshit on the internet. King James was black. King James was goddamn black. Okay, goddamn. But I mean, we gotta eventually wake up from this bullshit. And like I said, in my next video on as far as the black Hebrews, I'm gonna go through all the biblical verses, break them down linguistically, and show you, like Deuteronomy 28. They always try to use Deuteronomy 28, Amos. They use different verses, biblical verses, to try to prove that what's going on in America with African Americans, so-called African Americans, that this proves, and the Bible don't prove shit. This proves this is the prophecy of us. And this is the thing about prophecy. You can make prophecy fit anything you want. You know, it's no parameters to prophecy. It's something that you can match up with anything. You know, you can match it up with anything. And this is just like a catch-22. You can't win or lose with it. So people can believe what they want. It don't mean that it's actual fact. So you can take prophecy. The white people take the prophecy and do the same thing. They say, see, this is meant, this meant for this, or this meant for that. And y'all take the same verses and this means something else to you. It's about your interpretation. Don't mean that your interpretation is right. And no one can prove their interpretation is right. So this is what you're falling into when you're getting off into books like the Bible, Torah, the Quran, and you're trying to make these particular verses that was written by ancient men, you're trying to make them mean something for you in this day and time. And that just, that doesn't work at all. But like I said, I'm going to get off into my next video. I'm going to get deep off into the Hebrew language and show how it's bullshit and how these black Hebrews don't really know the Hebrew. And this is something I would like. And like I say, it's a few brothers that I know the Hebrew. But the questions that I asked, they never actually answer. They never answer the questions. Like questions on what is called the Katib Malay. The Katib Malay, a particular system of just reading the Hebrew without the vowel system. What particular system do you black Hebrews follow when it comes to the Hebrew? Like, what do you follow, Nikud, or do you follow the Katib Malay, or when do you use each one? And who came up with these rules? The Edomites or you? And if you say the Edomites, then what rules you follow? And if you have your own particular separate rules that's separate from the standardized Hebrew rules of Israel and the universe of Israel, if you have separate rules, then please show and prove that you have these rules separate that was preserved by black Hebrews. Can you show that? Show that history. Also show a history of any black slaves that came to this country claiming to be Hebrew. None of you can ever do that. And that's another big problem. None of you can ever show and prove the history of anybody or any slave records or slave narratives that claim to be a Hebrew, even coming from West Africa. You can't do that. That's another problem for you. Language is what describes a people. Language is the main thing how you find out who a people are. Through language. So if you're claiming to be Hebrew, this means that this Hebrew language was supposed to at least have been preserved by you, not by your so-called enemy, the one you call the Edomite or the white man. But in my next video, I'm going to get deep off into the biblical verses, the ones that y'all claim as a prophecy of black people, and show you how you're wrong and you're erroneous, and I'm going to prove that. No doubt, it's not going to be an argument about it. And any of you black Hebrews want to invite me to debate you, I don't care where it's at. We can debate at the 7-Eleven. We can debate on Sinetta TV, House of Consciousness. I don't care. I don't need a big crew to debate you. I don't need no squad. I'm my own squad. I am the God killer for real. So, I mean, hey, it's like bring your information, just bring your facts. And if you Hebrews that feel like you can prove this series wrong, then I invite you, either you debate me face to face, or you can debate me in the comments on the YouTube video. Pick your poison. It don't matter. But I hope y'all enjoyed this particular first part of my Black Hebrew Israelite video. And the second part is coming soon. And hey, I'm going to leave y'all with this one thing, something I learned from an old man a long time ago is an old saying. He said that you have the right to remain stupid. And anything you do not know can and will be used against you, most likely for a big profit. Y'all stick with that. Y'all put that in your head. I am your host, the Emperor Atheist, and I'm out.